Hello survivors, and welcome to another Walking Dead Road to Survival video. And in this video we're going to be doing a starter guide for Gold Mythic Kenny, one of the more powerful damage dealers in RTS. We're not going to be going over his kit in too fine a detail. If you do want to find out how his kit works, various parts of it, you can check the link in the top right hand corner right now. It is the preview I did when he initially was released. In this video we're going to be going over what grades you need to get him to be viable in war and raids, what sort of passives upgrades you actually need to get on this guy, as well as like the combat mods that are best used, weapons that are good options, and of course how to actually use him in an actual fight to a high standard. That's pretty much as simple as that. Let's go over to the skills and see what limit break we need to get him to first. Now we can check out what limit break we have to get this character to by going to his adrenaline rush to see basically you need to get him to LB3 to max him out. However, at LB1 he is still going to have the highest attack output in general on his actual rush. The LB3 upgrade is the buff that he'll get after rushing the first time. He will of course gain more stats once he gets to LB3, but it looks like LB1 is fine for his adrenaline rush. However, when it comes to his signature move, you definitely need him to get him to LB2 to get the best out of Kenny as a character. Limit Break 2 gets actual damage on the signature move, and it's very important to try and get his specialist to proc, and by procking you need to take someone out as early in the fight as possible. This is a turn 1 signature move and it's a 200% hit at LB2. Before that it just does focus, so not very good at all when it comes to actual damage output. Limit Break 2 is the minimum in my opinion to use this character in war and raids to a high standard. Before that you can use him in world map, road map, that sort of thing without too much of a problem. His basic attacks will still hit hard. You could potentially take commands and stuff if you really needed to as well, who aren't as useful in the raid or war scenario. When it comes to his passives, I would say agility is quite important. It is going to increase his damage output. You can look at the second one, it's called a flawed man's tale. This is the 100% chance that he will reduce incoming reflect and counter damage down to 0. It will also affect other Telltale characters this way, where they will receive 0 damage. So if he hits a payback character and you've got Telltale characters in your entire team, no one will get payback damage. You can utilize other characters like Wanderer and Carol with the camouflage to do that anyway, so it doesn't necessarily have to be Telltale characters as teammates for Kenny, but the person who does the initial attack has to have something like what Kenny's got here, and there are very few characters in the game that have this, especially to his higher standard. 100% chance, and this will happen with anything. Basic attacks, signature move, rush. The third passive, you can see he gets Weapon Expert, and this is going to be a 30% boost to any stats he has on a weapon. So if he has 50% attack, it'll get a 15% actual attack boost on top. It'll multiply with the 50% as well, so it'll be slightly higher than 65%. And it will multiply with the leader skill, it will multiply with the 1535. You're going to be getting big numbers on the attack stat for Kenny here. The last one is Determination. This is the least important passive here because it can be just straight up hard countered by a control character. They have 40% reduction, and this will basically mean this passive does not work. But not all characters who have control within their kit are actual control role characters. Some are support characters, sometimes like the odd medic, sometimes even a damage dealer. So it will work against those characters. Now this does not stack with the resistance mod in the combat mods. It will just basically overwrite it. So let's say you get an 80% resistance mod, it will just be 80% on that particular resistance, not 100%. So just that, be aware of that. This is definitely the least important, so if you are very short on resources, go for the other ones first. They directly influence his survivability or his damage. Now next up we're going to go over Kenny's combat mods, and I would say that the crit multiplier set is the best one to go for. Everything in his kit can crit, and his rush can obviously attack multiple times. So we're going to go with crit multiplier. And I'm going to just go straight into the top right hand corner. We'll talk about the top left hand corner in a moment. Top right hand corner, we'll go with attack versus a trait that he already doesn't get bonus damage against, which is going to be fast, tough, or alert. He already does strong, and I think there are quite a lot of tough characters around right now, and there are also quite a lot of alert characters right now. If you only want to go with one attack versus, you can choose which one you primarily want to go for. I'm going to go for tough first, but I can give you a little hint. I'm going to go for alert in the wildcard slot in a moment. And for the resist mod, you can either go for taunt resist or you can go for stun resist. In my opinion, those are the most vital ones because these are more prevalent on defense teams a lot of the time. I will say that he has more chance of having taunt resist being not a problem for him because he has focus on his first turn signature move. He also gets 100% taunt resistance if you have Clementine on the same team as Kenny, so there is that worth noting. Stun resist is generally quite important, especially considering we're getting a lot of alert characters right now. A lot of them have 60% chance to proc, so if you have a very good stun resist, this could work very nicely. I have a pretty good one, 83%. If you're lucky enough to have a Paragon mod, you're going to get a little bit more, and that's just going to have, a better chance of actually being able to take your next turn rather than being completely nullified in the fight. Bottom left hand corner, there's only one real option here in my opinion, and that is going to be crit multiplier. We did have multiple opportunities to get a Paragon mod with crit multiplier on it. I think there was one within the Clementine event. I think there may have been one with World Champions qualification. So there's definitely some people out there who probably have one, maybe more, of this particular mod. I think it may have even been in a league season before. And this is a great mod for Kenny. 75% extra damage when he hits a crit. It will also stack with the set bonus, which has now been enabled. It's going to be 40% initially. I think it goes up to 55% plus. And we'll just see how that goes. We're going to add some more platinum mods. In the wildcard slot, we're going to be adding that attack versus alert. That's the other primary trait at the moment. I have another good attack versus, which is going to be 58% attack versus alert. Being able to do increased damage against the more primary traits at the moment, which is tough and alert, is obviously extremely important. But if you say you had a very heavy damage dealing tough character, you could potentially gear Kenny to be primarily a tough damage dealer, and then the other character could be like an anti-alert damage dealer. It really depends on how you want to set things up, but I want Kenny to be able to obliterate everybody. Now we come to the top left hand corner, and I think you've got two main options here as a stat mod. You've got attack stat, which you can see I've got a Paragon mod on, so I've got a very good option, or I can go for crit chance. Now the reason I say you could go for crit chance is if I add this Paragon mod right now, you can see his attack stat is going to go up from 38,000 in the left hand corner to 48,000. It's a 10,000 increase. This does not multiply with weapons, leader skill, 1535s. It doesn't multiply with anything in his kit. It's just a flat rate base attack stat increase. That's how attack stat, defense stat, and HP stat mods work. Same with actually crit chance, but crit chance now multiplies together anyway. But crit chance is just going to be a base increase to his chance to crit. The difference is when he gets to fully maxed out attack stat with the teammates in a team, if he's at 140,000 and you remove this mod, it is still only going to be a 10,000 decrease because it doesn't multiply with anything else. It'll just be a flat 10,000 damage decrease of 140k attack stat. That isn't that big a deal. You could see getting 50 or 60 crit rating to actually hit crits more often, which is going to be a massive increase because of the 75% increase to crit damage he's got in the bottom left hand corner and the 70% crit multiplier he's got from the 5 slot bonus on the crit set. Critting more often is better than just having 10k base damage more, generally speaking. If you're finding crit to be an issue with Kenny, and Kenny doesn't seem to crit as much as other characters, a bit of conspiracy theory going on here, but even surrounded by 1535s, holding one in his hand as well, it just doesn't seem like he's hitting those crits as often as he should. But I'm going to stick with attack on crit set for the time being. I do switch between them from time to time, but this is just to see like the high end attack stat potential. So I'm just going to lock this in, and you're going to see his stat remain at 48,696. This is going to be pretty effective when he's on an attack team, but we'll see how high we can get that when it comes to his weapon addition, teammates surrounded by him, and of course that leader bonus. So we can slot him in the team, and you can see he's still got that same damage number. If we go to his weapon, we can just sort it by alert, 5-star attack weapons, and we have got the primary weapons for him on my screen right now. You can see the one on the left hand side is the one that I use quite a lot on him. It's going to be 50% attack. That's going to get a 15% boost on top of that, which is very nice. The 45% attack when attacking enemies of more than 50% HP is why I can do massive damage against the likes of Peacekeeper and stuff turn 1, who has quite low defense. And obviously the 1535 is also going to increase his attack stat and his crit chance. This is a very good weapon. This was from a previous battle pass. Then we had the next weapon, which was a former Warrior Champions exclusive weapon. You didn't have to go to Warrior Champions to get this, but it was a weapon that was sold after Warrior Champions for I think like $15 or $20 as part of an offer. And it's pretty much the same as the weapon I just showed, but instead of it based on their HP rating being 50% or higher, they just have to have a debilitating status effect. It's hit and miss, basically, which one's better. This one is harder to get going, but later on in the fight, you are going to have more chance of there being debilitating statuses around if you have the right team setup. That means that someone who's got 40% of their max HP, you're going to be able to do 50% attack extra against them, whereas that other weapon won't work in that scenario. The reason I think the other weapon is slightly better is just because Kenny is a really hard nuke early in the fight, and if you don't want him to kind of be an extended fight, so this weapon is a little bit more of an extended fight weapon in my opinion. We'll go to one more weapon here, and I get a lot of questions about splash damage potential with Kenny, and I would just say no. I would just say no. You're missing out on massive attack boost that he gets with that 45% extra attack based on the enemy's HP, but you also don't add much here. The 120% attack isn't really that high for whatever reason. I see this more as a ability to remove Guardian shields, but the only problem is this has a chance to proc, a better chance, whereas the other two are 100% chance to proc as long as they meet the required scenario based on HP, based on debilitating status effects. So those ones are 100% better. Now I know those weapons are a bit harder to come by, and this is weapon that I have that I crafted. You can craft this in any trait, and I would recommend crafting one of these in every trait. Very useful weapon. You get an attack stat at the top, huge bonus to AP in the second slot, the bonus attack, 45% attack when attacking enemies of more than 50% HP in the third, and 1535 in the fourth. You only need to have a 30% attack boost as the initial stat, and you can make any weapon like this. You are going to have slightly less attack. As you can see, it's 45% instead of 50%, but this is still very effective. I use this on Kenny for a very long time. Now I'm going to go with the pistol that I like the most, which is the 45% attack with characters over 50% HP. It's going to give him a nice boost up to 85,000 attack. That alone is already pretty decent. If you remember, once upon a time that was pretty good, 85 to 95k attack. But now we're going to add some 1535s around him and that leader bonus as well. And you can see his attack stat gets boosted up to nearly 140,000. And now you're kind of getting the idea of why removing that mod with just attack stat on it isn't going to have that big an impact. It's just going to be a flat 10,000 damage reduction, and just to prove it, I will remove the mod. And you could just simply replace that mod with a crit chance mod if you were feeling like you weren't critting often enough, and 129,000 is still going to be a lot. You could also have characters in the team that give buffs if you so wish, in terms of like damage buffs based on the weapon, based on how many characters of a certain trait are in here. You could have alert characters with the alert buffs weapon. You could have some more strong characters with strong attacks weapon. It's completely up to you how you want to deal with this. Okay, so we're just going to attack first, just to show you basically how to attack with this character. Then I'll roll some footage from some previous wars in terms of me taking on stronger teams. I'm obviously trying to find teams in raids and stuff like that, and it's generally pretty hard. So we're just going to try and get Kenny his rush first turn. It will be a bit difficult, but he is very hard hitting, even against the character that we don't have attack versus against, which is Wang Fa here. And we do get that rush. Now, this is the strategy that I like to use. Maybe not against this particular team because it isn't as tanky as some. But if I was against a very tanky team, I would simply defend turn 1 on Kenny and then rush twice on the next turn. I'm going to confuse this character here so I can attack who I want. And you're going to see just the defense do what they want. And now, when I rush, I can proc my specialist skill again. Now I'm unlikely to proc it because I most likely will take out the entire team, but if I was to do it against a tanky team, it's going to be hard to take out everybody with just 4 hits. But then the second rush is going to give me 100% attack boost, and I can do it twice in one turn. I would probably go an absolute defense off of Zachary here. Oh, we didn't actually one shot Steve. Okay, so now you can see I've got my rush, but I've also got that 100% attack. Imagine I'm against a really tanky defense team. I maybe took out 1 or 2 characters with that initial rush. Now I've got that massive boost, and I can rush again against the remaining characters. Even if I'm only, going to target one particular devastating character that's on a defense team, I should be able to take him out with 4 hits with 100% attack boost on Kenny here. I might not be able to take out Zachary because obviously he's got the absolute defense. Sometimes it can be just like that. Okay, so here I'm going to just roll some footage from the previous Warrior Champions against some tanky Priya teams, these defensive tough teams, and you can kind of see what he's basically used for in terms of just nuking these teams. I sometimes utilize the double, rush turn, sometimes I don't. It really depends on how flimsy I think the rest of the characters are in the team. If there's some very tanky characters, especially against these newer Rick defense teams where they've got lots of bonus HP, you need to do that. You need to double down on the rushes. It can even be hard to take out one in those scenarios without the right support for Kenny. So it's just, good to try and support Kenny with the right characters. Remove all the bonus HP, that sort of thing. Stun to make it so he doesn't actually proc weapons, is actually going to be pretty important. But, doubling down on those rushes on turn 2, if you manage to get a takedown on turn 1, is just going to give you a much better and quicker success rate from my experience. So this was my starter guide for Gold Mythic Kenny, and it's probably more of a veteran guide at this point. I've used Kenny for a very long time, and I've got to this point on his kit. It isn't early on in my usage of him. It's a very effective build. It is obviously going to be a bit problematic based on the lack of being able to hit crits against certain teams, but you're going to have to just pair Kenny with the right characters to try and make it work. This is just my build for how I've managed to get him to where he is. If you've seen me use him in the past, you kind of see how much damage I can get with this guy. If you're going for a different build, feel free to let me know down in the comments if you've got other ideas. It's always nice to hear. But hopefully this is going to be useful for you guys. If you've just got your Kenny, which I know a lot of people have, I managed to get Kenny way back when with some very, very lucky pulls. And if you want to check them out, there should be a link on your screen to check them out right now. That's it for this video, guys. Like I say, thank you very much for tuning in. And as always, keep on surviving, guys. Keep on surviving.